Nigeria marks its 65th independence anniversary. President Tinubu assures Nigerians that the country's worst days are over. We have a special report on Nigeria's journey since independence. Stay with us for details of the story. Thank you for joining us here on Third Eye Africa TV. My name is Juliet Onra. Happy Independence to all Nigerians. And now the news in detail. As Nigeria marks its 65th independence anniversary, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has assured the people that the country's worst days are over. He declared that his economic reforms are beginning to deliver results and that hope is rising for a more prosperous nation. The president stated this in his national broadcast to mark the 65th independence anniversary. Tinubu says the country has made some progress in the past 65 years.
In economic growth, social cohesion, and physical development, our economy has experienced significant growth since 1960. Although it is much easier for those whose vocation is to focus solely on what ought to be, we must recognize and celebrate our significant progress. Nigeria today have access to better education and healthcare than in 1960. At independence, Nigeria had 120 secondary schools, with a student population of about 130,000. Available data indicate that as of year 2024, there were more than 23,000 secondary schools in our country. At independence, we had only the University of Ibadan and Yaba College of Technology as the two tertiary institutions in Nigeria. By the end of last year, there were 274 universities, 183 polytechnics, and 236 colleges of education in Nigeria, comprising federal, state, and private institutions. We have experienced a significant surge in growth across every sector of our national life since independence.
President Tinubu notes that his administration had chosen the path of tomorrow over the comfort of today since coming into office in May 2023, and that Nigerians are now beginning to see tangible results. When Nigeria hosted its green-white-green flag in October 1st, 1960, the country was tipped as a future global powerhouse. 65 years later, however, observers believe that Nigeria has not been able to meet its aspirations set out at independence. The retarded progress is largely blamed on military incursion into political leadership between the First and Third Republics. Against this background, correspondent Margaret Ogumesi traces Nigeria's political trajectory independence.
Since gaining independence in 1960, Nigeria had its own fair shares of turbulence and ecstasy. The former British colony created in 1914 gained independence in 1960 after many decades of anti-colonial struggle. With the approval of the colonial authorities, Nigeria held the parliamentary election that would formally launch it into independence under the leadership of Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. Balewa was elected Prime Minister in 1960 after the coming together of the Northern People's Congress (NPC), the National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC), and some smaller political parties, thus igniting celebration and set the country into a joyful mood. The Balewa government began by setting Nigeria on the path of sustaining development by reaching out to other nations of the world. One of the first port of call was the United States of America, where it was received on arrival in Washington, D.C. by the then American President J.F. Kennedy.
Mr. Prime Minister, I am honored to welcome you and the distinguished members of your party to the United States. This welcome is only the beginning. You will find as you travel through this country a very deep and genuine interest in the exciting developments which are taking place in your country and in Africa today.
I am very pleased to be with you in Washington today, and I look forward to the week which we are to spend among you. I have no doubt that the American people will receive us with all the kindness that they all receive strangers. This is just a brief reply to your very warm address of welcome. Thank you.
With Balewa as Prime Minister and head of government, Nnamdi Azikiwe of the NCSC was appointed Governor General at independence in 1960. In 1963, Nigeria became a republic and Azikiwe became the president as the Queen of England seems to be Nigeria's head of state, while Balewa remained Prime Minister and head of government. On 30 December 1964, Nigeria held its first post-independence elections, but it was marred by violence, setting the newly independent nation on edge, a political crisis that led to the first military coup d'etat on 15 January 1966. The coup led to the death of Prime Minister Balewa and some other top political leaders and military officers. Johnson Aguiyi-Ironsi was the most senior military officer at the time, emerged as head of state after the coup failed. 6 months later, on 29 July, Aguiyi-Ironsi was assassinated and Yakubu Gowon, a lieutenant colonel at the time, became head of state. He held power for 9 years until 29 July 1975 when he was ousted in a bloodless coup. Gowon had the longest reign at a stretch for any head of state or president since independence. In 1967, he divided the 4 regions of the country into 12 states, and 3 days after, on 30th May, Chukwuemeka Ojukwu, the military governor of the Eastern region, declared the region's secession, naming it the Republic of Biafra. A civil war broke out on 6 July 1967 and lasted for 30 months until 13 January 1970, when the key actors on the Biafran side surrendered to the Nigerian government. The war officially ended on 15 July 1970. Since then, Nigeria witnessed a number of military coups, producing military leaders like Murtala Mohammed, Olusegun Obasanjo, Muhammadu Buhari, Sani Abacha, and Abdulsalami Abubakar, whose regime eventually ushered in the Fourth Republic of Nigeria. The Fourth Republic has seen the transfer of power from one administration to another through democratic elections. Olusegun Obasanjo handed over to Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and then to Goodluck Jonathan, who handed over to Muhammadu Buhari. After 8 years and at the end of his tenure in 2023, Buhari handed over to the present administration of President Bola Tinubu. The inauguration of Bola Tinubu as the 16th president of Nigeria and 5th president of the Fourth Republic took place on 29 May 2023, marking the start of the 4-year term with Kashim Shettima as vice president. It was the 9th presidential inauguration and 7th in the Fourth Republic.
Umar Sani is a Nigerian politician who has served in various capacities since the advent of the Fourth Republic in 1999. He speaks with correspondent Udo Etefia on the journey so far.
We had started making some progress at certain points where we were, the number one destination for businesses and investments in Africa, and the number 3 in the world. We had also made progress in the area of having the higher GDP and so forth. But we are gradually moving downwards. Our currency is very low. Things are not moving as they ought. Now we are the poverty capital of the world. We are not making much progress as it ought to be. So my fear is that if we continue along this line with the insurgency, with the banditry and insecurity and the rate at which corruption is very rampant, we may not witness a happy 65th anniversary. However, I have a call to the government and the good people of Nigeria. Nigeria at 65 should be treated, as a nation that is in problem, and people should give the government the opportunity to try to resolve all these type of problems. But the government in itself must also show some willingness, some desire to be able to address these issues and not merely to pay lip service to them. It is not proper for our president to go overseas and say there is no more corruption in Nigeria. That is very unfair to the Nigerian citizens, where we know there is corruption. We know the cost of living is very high, and the people are suffering. Cost of transportation is high, and so forth and so on. We hope that government will look at these issues and address them adequately so that Nigerians will have a better life in the years to come.
Okay, in concrete terms, what do you think the government should do in addressing this, especially corruption?
First and foremost, the government should look at the possibility of ensuring that farmers are given the opportunity to produce en masse our food requirements. Now, the stopgap measure that is currently ongoing, where items are imported to the country, is affecting the productivity of our farmers. It is affecting their cash flow, and it is affecting the way they sell their goods. Most of them are now selling at a loss because the foreign goods are cheaper, are better in quality, and so forth and so on. So we are no longer consuming made in Nigeria goods. And secondly, the cost of transportation, the cost of fuel, and so forth should also go down. Government should ensure that there are mass transit for people to go about their normal business, to reduce the cost of movement of goods and services. This will also help in stabilizing the economy. Government also should put an end to banditry and insurgency. These are things that are affecting the masses, affecting the communities. People are being killed on a daily basis, for one flimsy reason or the other by the bandits. And, kidnappers are now on the rampage. They are collecting a lot of money in ransom, per head. Sometimes 100 million, 200 million, 50 million, and so forth and so on. And at the end of the day, people are being killed.
On the streets of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Third Eye Africa TV has also sought the views of Nigerians on the 65th independence anniversary. And here's what they have to say.
Nigeria at 65 for now. I see that Nigeria has come a long way, but still has a long way to go. We have done, there are so many things we've not gotten right, as a democratic government, as a democratic country. So there are lots of things in terms of the economy, in terms of the infrastructure, employment, per capita income and the likes. Within the economic geography, we still have a lot to be done. So Nigeria 65, I thank God as a country we've been able to survive. But with regards to insecurity and a whole lot of other situations, like down to the person in the grassroots, is not really, seeing the change of the economy.
At 65, Nigeria is moving forward. But the pace of development is very low.
As compared to other countries who got independence at the same time with Nigeria, I'm personally not happy. I'm not impressed with the system of corruption and criminality. I'm not impressed with the looting of the Commonwealth of Nigerian people. I'm not impressed with all the shenanigans going on, even if in our legislative arm and the judicial arm of government. The executive is meant to set the tone and lead the way. Because if the executive is not corrupt, the legislature will not be influenced.
Nigeria 65 is a really big landmine. It's really a big one. So a lot of, especially let me use Abuja as an example, a lot of infrastructure, like big kudos to Minister Wike. He's really doing a lot in Nigeria, especially Abuja precisely. He's really doing a lot. So Nigeria is really getting advanced, and we are getting there. And before you know, I hope and I believe in years to come, we'll be like the United States of America. We could be like China by His grace.
I'll give an honest answer. Nigeria 65 compared to other countries is not something I'm proud of. The way things are as it is now, ranging from the economic crisis, shelter, and a lot of different reasons. I think we need to do a lot economically and also politically. We need to come together to know people who we vote for and people who are voted in to rule. Because I believe at age 65, we ought to have been at a different higher level where we should be competing with other countries, national, locally and internationally wise. So to me, Nigeria 65, it's a good thing to be at 65, but based on the economic situation of the country, I don't even think I can see anybody jubilating the way normally 1st October you see people everywhere jubilating, being happy. But the way it is now, I don't even see people rejoicing in the streets. So it has a lot to tell that we need to go back and do a lot of reforms that will affect the lives of every individual positively.
As a person, I would say it's progressing, because looking from independence to today, different wars, coup d'etats, and different government. So for a government to stabilize, at least it will take time to, so at least at 65, they have tried to be stable with the present democracy since 1999. So Nigeria 65 is partially stable.
Now to some other news. The case of alleged defamation and cybercrime instituted by the Department of State Services, DSS, against human rights activist Omoyele Sowore came up on Tuesday at the Federal High Court, Abuja. Sowore is charged along with Meta Incorporation and X Platform. However, the arraignment of the defendant was stalled on Tuesday because the defendants were not properly served. Correspondent Habiba Ishaku has more details.
The alleged defamatory case was filed on September 16, 2025 by the DSS following a controversial post that the defendant refused to take down on his X account, referring to the president as this criminal. The charges were brought on behalf of the DSS and the federal government by Muhammad Abubakar, Director of Public Prosecutions. Sowore was alleged to have, with intent to cause public fear and disturbance, published false information against the reputation of the president, contrary to Section 59 of the Criminal Code Act. Tuesday's arraignment was stalled because the government had not properly served Sowore with the charge. Sowore's lead counsel, Abubakar Marshal, protested, stating that the client had not received the charge as requested by law. He also noted that the second defendant had not been served, and since this was a joint charge, the arraignment could not proceed. Counsel to the federal government, Muhammad Abubakar, insisted that Sowore had been served. However, trial judge M.G. Umar examined the case file and confirmed that the service had not been effective. The Director of Public Prosecution then requested to serve Sowore in open court, which the judge granted. Sowore accepted the documents in court and asked for 3 days, as allowed by law, to study the charge and prepare his defense. Justice Umar upheld the request and adjourned the arraignment to October 27.
The most important thing that ought to have been done, which was to serve me, they refused to serve me. They were hoping that they come and ambush me in the court. They did not want to serve me because they are afraid that I will prepare for trial.
And you decided to come.
But I decided to come because even cases that don't concern me, I come to this court to attend to them. So what is important, Nigerians, is that our focus on how to fix this country is our inalienable right, and it's sacrosanct. In the process of doing that, we will not spare anybody, because we are 200 million people, and we deserve good governance, we deserve attention, we deserve accountability, transparency, we deserve the basic minimum standards of democracy and tenets, one of which is freedom of speech. You cannot litigate against us in any court or criminalize it.
While the second defendant had no legal representation, Professor Tayo Oyetibo represented the third defendant, Meta Platform. From the Federal High Court, Abuja, Habiba Isiaku reporting.
We'll take a short break. We have more on business and global news. Welcome back from that short break. You're still watching Third Eye Africa TV. Now we have more news in business. Tax reform policy of the current administration is one of the economic blueprints designed to turn around the fortune of the economy. The policy has, however, generated divergent views, but the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, has explained that the reforms are designed to ease the burden on citizens and businesses while improving government revenue collection. The executive chairman FIRS, Zak Adedeji, stated this while speaking on his 2 years in office. Adedeji said that the government reform exempted food, education, shared transportation, and agriculture from value-added tax under the new tax laws. He credited President Bola Tinubu for fulfilling his campaign promise to simplify tax compliance and remove hurdles faced by taxpayers. The reform consolidates multiple tax laws into a single code schedule to take effect in January. And now let's take some news on regional. Gabon's Democratic Union of Builders, a party launched just a month ago by President Brice Oligui Nguema, has taken the lead in the first round of legislative elections, winning 55 out of 145 seats in the National Assembly. This marks the country's first legislative vote since 2023 military coup ended the Bongo family's 50-year grip on power. Former President Ali Bongo Ondimba party, the PDG, managed only 3 seats, with both parties sharing 4 seats on joint ticket. A second round is set for October 11th, where 77 undecided constituency, mostly contested between the UDP and PDG, will determine the final mark-up of parliament. Gabon now operates under a presidential system restored after General Oligui Nguema won April's election following the adoption of a controversial electoral code that allowed military figures, including himself, to run. While legislative powers remained limited, this vote is being seen as a key test of Gabon's transition back to constitutional rule. And still in regional news, South African authorities have confirmed that its ambassador to France has been found dead at the foot of Hyatt Regency Hotel, a high-rise tower in Porte-Maillot in the west of Paris. According to French media reports, Ambassador's incognito Emmanuel was reported missing by his wife on Monday afternoon after she received a text message from him that worried her. His telephone was traced to the Bois de Boulogne but was not found. Paris police said Mthantawa had reserved a room on the 22nd floor of the Hyatt Hotel in Porte-Maillot. The room's secured window was forced open and Mthantawa's body was found by the hotel. In a statement posted on social media, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa offered his deep condolences to Ambassador's Mthantawa's wife, Ms. Felisiwe Buthelizwe, and the Ambassador's extended family. Mthantawa was appointed South Africa's ambassador to France and permanent delegate to UNESCO in March 2024. Let's take a short break. We have a recap of our major stories. Nigeria marks its 65th independence anniversary. President Tinubu assures Nigerians that the country's worst days are over. And we did take a special report on Nigeria's history, Nigeria's journey from independence. Do have a wonderful Independence Day celebration. My name is Juliet Onra. Bye for now.